Today, we are going to talk about ways that we can save money. Simple ways that sometimes, as we're going along, I think, wow, why didn't I think of that before? When I was growing up, the bills would come in the mail, and I would watch my dad just sit down and write out a check for those bills. And I always thought when I grow up, that's what I'm going to do. And then when I got out on my own, I realized how difficult it was to just sit down and write out a check for a bill that came in the mail that day. I didn't have the money. I didn't know how he did it. So that quickly became one of my goals. I thought when I can sit down and write out a check for a bill that comes in the mail, I will have made it. And when I started making enough money to do that, I never looked back. But since I've retired on my own and I started really analyzing the pennies that add up to dollars, I started thinking, that doesn't make sense to do that. Not for me. My money's in the bank, it's drawing interest. So I set my payments to go out on the day they're due. I can do this online now. I don't have to sit down and write down a check. So I just look at the electric bill. It's due on the 5th. I preset it up to pay on the 5th, and that way my money can stay in there to draw every last penny until it's due. But this year, I was writing out my checks for my property taxes. They're due in December, but you can put them in halves and you can pay half in December and half in May. And I thought, I've been paying the whole thing, but I should be doing that the same way. I'm going to start splitting them back in half and just adding that to my payment calendar so that the other half can draw interest the rest of the year until it's time for it to be due. These are just little ways to add money to your bank account without having to make more money or having to save more money. It's just a very easy way to make your money make more money without doing a darn thing. The next way to be able to save more money is to use discounts. And sometimes we just sleepwalk through life and we just pay the bill and we don't even think about it. And my husband and I are guilty of this. And we've had this conversation so many times that we need to remember to ask about discounts. There are so many different types of discounts. There's senior discounts. Some start at 50, some at 55, some at 60, some at 62. There are teacher discounts. I have a daughter that's a teacher. There are government employee discounts. I have a son. He gets a government ID and he can use that government ID to get discounts on rental cars and other things. There are VA discounts. My husband is a veteran. We put in his veteran card into like Lowe's and we're able to get discounts on all of our home stuff. There are discounts for AAA members. I have car insurance through AAA. I can get discounts using that. So there's so many out there, but I just want to share a few of the companies that give discounts just for seniors. AT&T has special senior plans, especially if you live in Florida. There's National Park Pass plans that you can get an $80 lifetime park pass and a $20 annual park pass if you're 62 and over. AARP, Optum RX, Joe's Crab Shack, Carbella's, Bubba Gump, Ticketmaster, Bonefish Grill, CVS, Lowe's, Walgreens, Ross Dress for Less, Goodwill has a senior day, and Salvation Army. Denny's has a senior menu. IHOP, Perkins Restaurant, McDonald's, Arby's, Chick-fil-A, Chili's, Dunkin' Donuts, Jack in the Box, KFC, Long John Silver's, Steak and Shake, Wendy's, Fuddruckers, Best Western, even the Myrtle Beach Resort has a senior discount. AMC Theaters, Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida, SeaWorld in Orlando, Pep Boys Auto Parts, Jiffy Lube, some of the cruise lines, and the list could go on and on. So if you can somehow make a mental note to ask about these discounts like we fail to do more than we should, it will save you a bunch of money if you're using any of those companies. The next item I want to tell you about that will save you a bunch of money in case you have the need for a plumber is called a plumber's bladder tool. It hooks on the end of your hose. You can put it into your clean out. It will expand when you turn on the hose and it will blow out a clog. I don't know what it is about holidays, but if we have a bunch of people coming to our house, before they get here, either the kitchen sink won't drain, the shower won't drain, the toilet won't flush. Something happens every single time. So we bought one of those this year because the kitchen sink wouldn't drain and it took care of the clog. We didn't have to call a plumber, and we have this tool now in case we need it in the future for anything. It works like magic. If you have a newer washer like I do, you can choose the different settings that you want on how you want to wash your clothes, whether it is bedding, whether it is delicates. But I choose speed wash each and every time because it has the lowest minutes running. And the lowest minutes running for me is 33 minutes for the fastest wash that I can do. So rather than choose like delicates or bedding that can go upwards of 90 minutes for a wash cycle, I always choose the speed wash so I can save electricity. One of the easiest ways that we saved money on our electric bill is I went around and did a full house assessment. I went to every single plug-in to see what was plugged in and if we were even still using that item. I found plugins that I forgot we even had, ones that were behind beds or behind dressers that maybe had like a charger of some sort plugged in from years ago that no one was even using. I went around and unplugged all of our AC units in the wintertime because we had been leaving those plugged in and some of them were 220 outlets. So I check the spare rooms. Every time we have company, I go back in there to make sure the lamp's no longer plugged in, that nothing is plugged in those outlets, not space heaters or anything from having visitors. We maybe have visitors 5 to 7 days in an entire year. But before I did this full house assessment, things were being plugged in those spare rooms 365 days a year. So this made a huge difference. A lot of people don't believe that things plugged in will draw power, but I can tell you from experience, me going around and unplugging all of these things that we weren't using and flipping breakers to items that we were not using saved us about $1,200 a year. I keep my dryer breaker flipped off. It is another 220 plug, and I rarely, if ever, use my dryer. So if I'm going to use my dryer 1 or 2 times a year, I will flip that breaker back on. But otherwise, I'm not paying for my dryer the rest of the year. That would be silly for me to pay just for the convenience of having it on and ready to push that button if and when I decided to use it. This makes a huge difference. So I encourage you to do a full house assessment. You also might have plugins that you don't even remember you had. One of the things that I use as a tool is this electric company home profile. I filled out my profile on what appliances that we had and what items that we had so that it would be more accurate. Don't ask me how it works because I don't know. But as you can see, there are different areas of things that are always on at the bottom that are color coded. Lighting, cooking, refrigeration, cooling, water and heating, entertainment, other, heating,
It lets you know the temperature. That is what that line is that goes way up there, and also laundry. So I can look at this at any given time and say, oh my gosh, what is it that we always have on? Do I need to go around and do I need to see what is plugged in? I can look at this and see if anything is deviating from what I think it should be. Now, when I have guests, it should go up. But when I don't have guests, it should stay pretty much the same unless the temperatures are really extreme. So this helps me a lot to analyze things and to look at it and to see if I need to be doing another house assessment.
I also have some very simple money saving items. I have not bought anything in a store with one of these in years and years and years. These are so old, but I have a bunch of them. I also keep some in the camper, and I hang dry some of my items like my yoga pants or my bras. And I just flip the bra upside down and put the seam up here. It holds the seam flat and dries it flat. And then it's just like it's brand new again. Nothing is worse than when we have some of our seams twist. I keep these so I can dry those items with untwisted seams. So the next time they ask you if you want these when you check out, say, yes, I do. And if they break, the ends we use for chip clips. I hope some of these ideas were helpful to you today to maybe help you save some money around your home. Sometimes these things are just so just as easy as walking around and seeing what is plugged in our house and seeing if we have things that we can use or reuse or repurpose. All of those things save us money, even if they seem like they're small at the time. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you in the next video. Please give me a like and a subscribe. My goal is to get to 8,000 viewers by the middle of January, and I would really appreciate it if you could help me do that.